edition of the Claus Corner. This week's guest is a philosopher, comedian, actor, motivational speaker, and an all-around nice guy. His movies include the IP Section, The Bob Show, and The Antagonist. He has performed as a unique brand of comedy all over the United States. He is the 2007 Rhode Island Comedy Festival winner, the 2018 Audience Choice Award winner Clean Comedy Challenge, and has been featured at the Golden Spike Comedy Festival. He has become the latest social media sensation, most recently capturing the attention of Howie Mandel. Please welcome the man of many talents, the very funny Mr. Rodney Norman. How are you, Rodney?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Can you see me? Are you okay? You got that?
Sure, I got my glasses on.
All right, well, I'm glad. Well,
how you doing?
I'm doing well. So I want to get right into what I was talking about with Howie Mandel. Your latest, You have different characters, and your latest breakout character is all over social media. And most recently, Howie Mandel was on there sort of making fun of you, laughing with you. Tell me about that. How'd that come about?
Yeah, it was a TikTok video that I made. I was driving driving from Utah back to Connecticut, and I stopped in Nebraska to take a nap. And I got up. It was fairly early in the morning. I got up, kind of walk around, wake myself up a little bit, and saw this cool rock formation. And I thought, hey, this is a cool place to do a video. So I whipped out my phone and turned it on, and just basically I was just going to tell everybody hello and have a nice day, just dumb. And it ended up being kind of a fun little video. I posted it, and it went viral on TikTok, and he saw it and duetted it, which made it go even further. So it was a lot of fun. It was really bizarre. I had no idea. People just started sending me messages saying, "You know Howie?" I'm like, "I know who he is. We don't hang out."
Not yet.
And yeah, so the video had gotten, by the time I saw it, it had over 200,000 views.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's why I need to get you on my show so I can get some viewers. People like you.
Let's do it. Yeah, I don't get it, but
What's the genesis of that character? How'd that come about?
Well, he's a combination of a few things, but the primary impetus is my grandfather. He was an alcoholic, and he used to, with me and my cousin Jeff would sit at the table. Well, in order to go to the backyard of my grandma's house, you had to go. It was through the kitchen, right next to where my grandpa would sit. And so every time you went out and back, you had to stop and talk to Grandpa, and he would either make you sit down and listen to a story, or he would just tell you a joke, or just something. He always had to say something. And like I said, most of the time he was drunk, and so it kind of came across a little crazy. And just remembering that, and then I started envisioning my grandfather as a motivational speaker. And that really is what kind of was the idea behind the character. I call him Leonard. I was developing a whole series. I was going to start doing was looking to do what I call demotivational speaking. And it was the idea was the world's worst motivational speaker. Or he doesn't look like a motivational speaker. He hasn't accomplished anything, which is most of them anyway. And he just blabbers on about the same. Yeah, he's not saying anything different than any other motivational speaker. He's just saying it in a weird way. And it's just connected with people. It's been pretty fun.
You know, it's funny because I've been following what you've been doing, and you said in one of your posts that you're receiving letters or emails from psychiatrists.
Yes. Well, it's funny because, the first time, the first video that really went viral was we were getting ready to go to the airport, and so I'm sitting there just goofing off on my phone, waiting for my wife to get her bags together and, get packed. And a friend of mine in Utah made a sarcastic post just asking people, hey, do you guys have any opinion on what's going on in the world right now? I haven't heard anything from anybody. This is back when the riots were getting started and all that stuff. And so I just jokingly, as my character, answered him and sent it to him. And it was such a stupid video. I thought, I'm going to share that with on my regular page. So I shared it, and it hit. That was the first video I really ever hit that went big. I think it hit 1 million views within about 10 days, and then it's like over 100 million at this point.
I knew you hit it big for me. It was when one of my friends posted one of your videos on his Facebook page saying, you got to check out this guy. What's wrong with him? And I was laughing so hard. It was a cross between, should I tell him the truth or should I let it go on? And I just let it go on. I said, this is hilarious. I said, Rodney is one of the smartest people I know, one of the most hilarious comedians I've ever worked with. And I just let him think, this guy's crazy. Look at this. Then he shared it. Then his friend put it on his page. He shared it. So I mean, it just went on and on. And of course, that's where you got to 1 million views or even more. So I love the fact that you're that Leonard, quote unquote Leonard, is the breakout character. So you've done some other characters, which I want to get into. But you know what you remind me of? You're like the love child of Andy Kaufman and Sacha Baron Cohen.
I'll take it.
Nobody knows when you're kidding, if you're kidding, and you never break character. That's what I love about it.
That's the key. If you're gonna do a character, you got to commit.
Well, you had another character which I loved. It was probably 3-4 years ago, maybe before. He did dramatic readings. That was a fun one.
Yes. You see, the secret to a dramatic reading is that you have to deliver each and every single syllable like it's the most important syllable that has ever been uttered by anyone, ever. In fact,
go ahead.
All of existence depends on each and every word that you speak. Yeah, it's...
Well, I want you to keep going. I don't want you to stop.
Well, it was funny. I had a friend of mine who was just a really funny guy. And he had these really incredible Facebook posts that were really funny, but they would only get like maybe, 10, 15 likes. And I was just like, this stuff is really funny. And, and I would share it and he would share my stuff, but nothing ever really, even though you got thousands of friends, 10 people see it or whatever.
Yeah.
And so just on a whim one time, I did a dramatic reading of one of his posts, and it got a lot of attention. And so I just started doing it. I just started randomly doing readings of people's Facebook posts, and it turned into quite a thing there for a while. I do it off and on every once in a while. People aren't as interesting anymore. Everybody's kind of just saying the same thing and getting mad at each other. So it's hard to find any real good stuff to read anymore, but
yeah. Well, no, you definitely moved on to bigger and better things. And you actually added another character to your ever-growing repertoire. And it's perfect for the season, Santa Claus.
Yes. Well, I have a cousin who, Jeff, the one I was mentioned earlier, he passed away last year. And he has been a Santa Claus for, I think he started when in his 20s. He worked at a Sears, and they needed somebody to be Santa Claus because the Santa Claus they had been using quit or something, retired. And so he just said, well, I'll do it. So he got in the suit. And he thought he would just do it for a year. And then the next year, they're like, well, we need you to do it again. So he became the official Sears Santa Claus, and then he started getting hired to do it. And he just became a professional Santa Claus, did it for many years. And we were joking one time just before he died, because he had lost a whole bunch of weight. he'd started really taking care of himself and lost all this weight. So he was worried about whether or not he was going to be able to still do Santa. I was like, I don't think it's a problem. But so kind of in honor of my cousin, I started doing Santa Claus, and got the idea to do him as a stand, to have Santa do stand-up comedy. And so last year I got a suit, and I started doing it. I've gone and had I sit down and have kids sit on my lap and everything. It was pretty cool last year. And I have a friend in Utah who does a big fundraiser show. He's a Guy Seidel. He was at in a radio station one time, and they were talking about raising money for a family that was in need for Christmas. And so he got this idea to do a comedy show and give the money to the family. And it turned into this thing where he did it every single year, and it gets bigger and bigger. And every year, the first year he did it, I think he raised like $1,000 or something. This last year, he raised over 50,000.
Wow. And that was very recently, wasn't it? Wise Guys, I think.
Yeah, it was last year, last season.
Okay.
Back when we used to be a free country. So at that show, I was like, look, I've got this Santa thing that I want to do. And he let me do it. It's about 5 minutes long. I just get up, do stand up as Santa, and it pretty big hit. And so another friend of mine books the Dry Bar comedy stuff. And I asked him if he'd let me do it. And he was like, oh, yeah, let's do it. So I just filmed that. That should be coming out fairly soon. But it's Santa Claus doing stand-up.
Now, is it going to be a DVD, or is it going to be on your Facebook?
It'll be out. He said it'll be on Dry Bar, so it'll be on Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
Very good. Now, what kind of jokes do you do as Santa?
Well, it's from the perspective, it's I play it straight as Santa, and so I address the issues with Rudolph being bullied by the other reindeer. I explained to people that because of COVID restrictions, I may not be able to deliver directly to your home. So some people might have to go to a church parking lot to pick up their stuff. I encourage people not to leave gluten-free cookies. It's just, I just have a lot of fun with it. So,
now, question, Rich, I've known you've been doing comedy for at least 20 years. Is that correct? Yeah,
it's 22. This just past 22 years this last November.
Oh, happy anniversary! And that.
How'd
you get your start in comedy?
Oh, I've been kind of a ham and my whole life, man. My cousins and me, we used to my grandparents, like I was telling about my grandpa, my grandparents used to have this big it was, the city would only let you build onto a house if you had to get a permit to build onto to build a new foundation. But if you built a porch, because it was already existing structure, you could build on it, but it had to be there for 2 years. So my grandfather was adding additions to the house by just building a big porch, and then he'd wait every couple of years, and then he would just add a room, and then lay a slab for another porch, and wait 2 years. That way he could avoid having to do all the building permits through the city. And so we had always had this really big porch in the backyard to play on, and we would put on these skits for my uncles and aunts and my grandparents. And I remember the first one they made me, where I was the star, was we did a lip sync to Crocodile Rock, and I got to be Elton John. And I come out there and I start wiggling around and dancing, and my uncle was laughing, my aunts were laughing. I was just like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. And so I did theater all through high school and all that kind of crap. And But it was when I got married. You know, I was trying to get into acting, and my wife, I would do all these crazy characters. I used to do a character as a drill instructor who was gay, and
Oh,
I had all kinds of jokes about it, and she would just I'd make her crack up all the time, and she just kept pushing me. She's like, "You need to do stand up." I'm like, "I don't know how to get into stand up. I don't know what to do." And she kept pushing me, and then finally, I just had it with the job I was doing. I was a carpenter, and almost got my finger cut off. And while I was sitting there getting my finger sewed back together, I was like, this isn't what I wanted to do. And so I just quit and started doing stand up the next week, wrote a couple jokes, and that
wow.
was it. That became my lifelong pursuit right there.
I have to say, what I admire most about you is that you can play a room full of fifth graders, be hilarious. That same night, go into a bar with a bunch of 20 to 60-year-olds and be even funnier. Your comedy transcends genres. I mean, it's very clean, it's very funny, it's very relevant, and not too many people can do that.
Yeah, it's I think it's just appealing, you know, to the kid and all of us, really.
Yeah.
That's when you tap into that, you can make everybody laugh, because you know everybody's been a kid at some point in time.
Oh, yeah. No, I like, so you relate to, or the people relate to you because you're telling stories that they say, oh yeah, I've been through that, I've done that, or I've seen, and that's what makes it so funny. Now, for not for your comedy, but for your characters, when you're filming, do you think of it beforehand and planning out, or do you just turn on your phone and start filming and just off the cuff?
I usually have kind of an inkling of an idea, but mostly it's just off the cuff. I just kind of get into character and just start talking as a character and see what happens. Half the time, especially with Leonard, I forget what I say. And so I'll post a video, you know, and then about, you know, the next day I start reading the comments and people are quoting from it, and I'm going, man, that's brilliant. Where'd they get that from? And they realize, oh, it was me. I said that. Oh, okay.
That's funny. Now, what you just said is, a lot of what you say is funny, but it's also very profound. And you mentioned that you're a philosopher. Did you go to school for philosophy?
Yes, I have a degree in philosophy.
Okay.
Because when I went to school on my GI Bill, the school I was going to didn't have a 4-year program for theater. And so I thought, well, I can't get my degree in theater. I might as well get it in philosophy, because they're closely related in my mind.
Yeah.
And I figured either way I was going to, you know, both of them lead to just having a food handler's permit anyway. So why not? But no, it was fun. Philosophy's also been one of my passions, philosophy and theology and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, motivational speakers, I used to listen to, you know, all of them over the years. So I've wanted to be a motivational speaker, but I always felt like I needed to actually accomplish something before. And now I've learned that I didn't need to. That was completely unnecessary. I just need
Yeah.
to get a TED talk, apparently. So
Well, what's funny with me, as you know, I have cerebral palsy, and I was doing my comedy somewhere, and somebody came up to me and said, you know what? I work at this place called Abilities Beyond, and I think you'd be a huge inspiration to my students. I started doing motivational talks there. That's been working out well. And then somebody saw me and they said, I do motivational talks at schools, and I started opening up for him. And then I started doing libraries and then other bigger halls. And I'm actually playing at the Palace in Waterbury, doing my own show. So yeah, I'm living proof you don't need to do something important to do motivational talking.
awesome.
You just fall right into it.
Awesome for you, man.
Just say something that sounds profound and you're like, wow, this guy is really deep.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's been fun with his characters, because all my characters have been able to mix philosophy and everything
Yeah.
in with it, and psychology, and it's just a lot of fun. I mean, especially when
Right.
you get to talk about stuff you like, you care
Yes.
about, and to be able to make it funny is just it's just absolutely the best.
Well, I wrote down some of the things that you've said to let my viewers know, like how you mix philosophy with humor. And these are some of my favorites I saw recently. This is something you did say. This is where it's not being me being profound. It's me telling you how profound you are. Crappy and horrible things are going to happen. Just remember, you don't have to throw out the whole day just because part of it is bad. I love that. And then another one that I liked is crap happens anyway. Be happy. And it's okay to be happy. You deserve to be happy. And there's two other ones that I liked. One that this is where you give advice to people who think they're special. That is hilarious. And then there's another one, advice for people after a friend or family member dies. It's just the fact that I think that you're touching so many people, but you're making them laugh at the same time. You're making them think and laugh. And that's where the success comes in.
Yeah, I think the character's, a little disarming because most people who have something important and serious to say, they want to look serious and important, and they've got to have, a picture of the universe behind them and the right, perfect Yanni music playing, resonating at, 580 hertz and, and very inspirational and speak. And as soon as you see that stuff, your brain just turns off. It's just like, okay, whatever,
Yep.
But with Leonard, it's you're just kind of baffled as to what the world is this guy doing, and you're kind of taken back, and then he makes you laugh, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh wow, he just snuck in motivation to me. How'd this happen? And
you're like, this homeless guy is really making a lot of sense.
Yes.
Now, I know you mentioned your grandfather. Who else in and out of comedy were some of your biggest influences?
A lot of literature, Dostoevsky, a lot of I said Nietzsche, Kant, Plato, Socrates. I think is one of the greatest characters of all time, where he's basically this bumbling idiot. And that's all. The Socrates, when you look at him, he didn't really have a philosophy. His whole point was nobody knows anything. All these people are pompous and full of themselves, and really they have no clue what they're talking about. And his whole point was just pointing out the folly of everyone, assuming that they think they know anything.
Yeah, I love that.
And he was this short, pudgy, funny looking fellow, and he's just going around asking people questions and frustrating the hell out of them. And he's just a brilliant character, So yeah, a lot of that. And then of course for comedy, Bob Newhart was one of my favorites as a kid. Jonathan Winters, he was everything to me when I was a kid. Just love that dude. Rich Little.
Yes.
And then I love the old roasts, with Dean Martin, Foster Brooks. A lot of people have referred to him, and for my character. And I guess to some degree there's that, but it's so many. I loved old comedy, and that's one of the things I want to get back to, is kind of paying an homage to what comedy used to be. Now everybody's trying to be edgy and smart and brilliant.
Well, No, I was gonna say that's the problem, is they're actually trying. The other comedians, it looked flawless because they just went out and did. They didn't really. I mean, obviously they wanted to be good and they were probably perfectionists, but they didn't go out there saying, "This is exactly what I'm going to do. I have this in mind." They just did what they thought was funny. And Rich Little brought up a great point, because he's still performing in Las Vegas. I would love to see him. But there is really nobody, like, he's doing, impressions of Jack Benny, George Burns, Peter Falk. And they were saying there's really nobody that stands out. I mean, back then we had personalities like Jackie Gleason, Peter Falk, and Peter Sellers. I mean, if somebody does an impression of Tom Hanks, like, who's that? It's just that nobody really is distinct as they were back in the golden age of TV even before.
Yeah, because actors used to really kind of create. They were their own brand, and they created that thing. So they wanted to be something that you could make fun, that you could mimic. you know, John Wayne,
Yeah.
James Cagney. I mean, you hear that name, you know exactly the voice and the fluctuations, every, you know, the character. You know the character of John Wayne. And yeah, everybody else nowadays, it's just you really don't know the actors. I mean, you know the parts they play, but you really don't know them because they're, you know, when you watch interviews with them, there's really not a whole lot there with most of them.
I
You know,
think
there's no.
unfortunately, no, go ahead.
Well, it's like we're afraid to be real, and so everybody puts on this facade of being smart and, you know, the next. Well, you know, really everybody's trying to be the next Lenny Bruce or you know, everybody's just trying to be the same comic.
Yeah.
And I'm just tired. Nothing against. I mean, look, they're funny, but you know, you're not really doing anything new, and that's and it's hard to. Comedy's a hard thing to do, and then to try to do something different. You know, because I mean, this is one thing I keep running into. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, you remind me of so and so, and you look like so and so," and you look, and it's like,
Yeah.
wait. I'm just trying to be me. I'm not trying to be Will Ferrell. I'm not trying to be John C. Riley. I'm just being me. I'm creating new characters. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's just like that character." It's like, no, it's not.
I personally don't see that. I don't see any other characters like the ones you're doing. But you brought up a great point. Um, I hate people. I'll give you an example. I did comedy for about 4 or 5 years, and there was this comedian who said, "You know what? From now on, I'm not doing any more I'm not doing any more free gigs." I said, "How long have you been doing comedy?" 2 years. I said, "You're never going to get any shows then." I mean, I would drive. One time I drove to Maine. It took me 7 hours because I had to pick up another comedian in Boston, then go to Maine. I did a 10-minute set, came all the way back home, another 4 or 5 hours, and went to work. The next day I did another show in Rhode Island, and they were all free, and they were only 10, 15 minutes. But these comedians that think that like, oh, 2 years, I put in my time. No, you didn't. And it also takes a long time to become you. And an example would be because Richard Pryor originally was like Bill Cosby. He said, I wanted to be like Bill Cosby until he finally fell into his own. So for you, when you first started doing comedy, how long did it take you until you felt so comfortable where you just were being you on stage instead of, did you ever try to imitate your favorite comedians about 22 years ago?
I guess to some degree, everybody, you know, when you first start, you kind of mimic or resonate, I guess is a better term, other comics. But no, I think I was just sort of that, just a generic white guy with a mic.
Yeah.
As you know, it really wasn't anything special. It was just a dude telling jokes. And I think it was in the last few years, really, that I really felt like I was just getting up there and just goofing off and having fun. I really wasn't. You know, I said if you're trying to change the world, you're not ever going to. I mean, I don't know. I think just when I finally got to the point where I was just like, I just want to be funny and have fun, have
Yeah.
the audience come in there, have a good time. And it's weirder now because everybody's so politicized.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I think has ruined comedy. It's not necessarily the political correctness. It's just the fact that everybody judges everything you say. And if they get the hint that somehow maybe you disagree with something they believe politically, they'll hate you. And it's not even that you've even said anything offensive. It's just the fact that they get the impression that you're not on their side. Therefore, they hate everything about you. And that's a frustrating thing. And so being able to find a way to get through all that, I think that's really what has kind of driven what I've been doing, because I'm like, I just want you to come in, sit down, laugh, and have a good time. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not trying to change the world. I just want to make you laugh and have a good time.
Well, it's funny you said that because I remember comedians when I get off stage, like, Rich, you always seem so happy. Why are you always smiling? I said, I'm having fun. And so another comedian actually said this to me. You have fun doing this? I said, well, why are you doing this? I think that they just thought they would go to some open mic at the Funny Bone or Joker's Wild New Haven when it existed and say, oh, look at this guy. I want you for a 5-deal Comedy Central special. You know, that's not going to happen. I mean, it might happen, but 1 in 1 million chance. Just get up there. I mean, for me, I just did it for fun. I had a great time when I was doing it. I really didn't care. And you were on a lot of my shows and I loved it. And I just had a good time. And sometimes it bombs, other times it does well. I just, dust myself off and go on to the next show. Never took it personally, never got depressed about it, and said, all right, well, they didn't laugh today, they'll laugh tomorrow. That was and I didn't care. I just had a good time doing it and being in front of people and making them laugh.
Yeah, that's the key to the whole thing. It's just if you're having fun, they're going to have fun. I mean, look, I when you get to the point where you enjoy it when a joke doesn't work, just because it feels like you're playing a joke on the audience, or as I like to explain to people, when you realize that you are the punchline, it's a lot more fun.
Yes.
And that's why you can get away with a whole lot more when you're not so worried about every joke hitting just perfect, or every single word is just perfect, or I'm hitting a joke, hitting a laugh every 6.5 seconds, or however it's like, just calm down, just have fun. Get up there and just have fun. That's all. It's all. People are there to have fun. They're not there to, hear about your dissertation about human right abuses under the Tsar Russian system prior to the overtake of by the Communist Party. I mean, they just want to have fun.
Well, I might want to hear that from Leonard. I'd love to know what he thinks about that. but you're right. Nobody else I want to hear that from but Leonard.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, where did you start comedy? Did you start in Utah and come to Connecticut, and now you're back in Utah?
No, I started in Kansas City, Missouri. Actually,
Okay.
we were living there just outside of Kansas City, and like I said, I was a carpenter. I was working on a house, and the guy I had brought with me to help me almost cut my finger off, and so went to an emergency room, got it sewed back on, and I was just like, this is it. So I went and found an open mic, wrote a couple jokes, got on stage, and just kept plugging it out. But yeah, I started in Kansas City. I was there for about a year, and then I moved back to Utah. I'm originally from Utah.
Okay.
I moved back there and started running some of my own shows. Met another comedian named Keith Stubbs, and he was running a club and a couple other places, and we just decided to do a real club in Salt Lake. So I quit my job working for the transit system there in Utah, and he put up everything with his credit cards, and we found what had been a Christian church slash school slash daycare center. The walls were all painted pink. We signed a lease on it, painted everything black, and opened up 2 weeks later and started Wise Guys. And I was the house MC for the first few years. So I was like on stage, 4 or 5 times a week, or 7, 8 times a week. And that really is where you learn how to be a comic when you're the MC. When you got to go up to a cold audience and get them going, that's where you learn how to be a comedian, because you got to pull everything out. You got to put, it's just, there's do or die. I mean, no failure is accepted. You've got to get them. And that's where you learn how to be a funny man, is getting in front of an audience that really basically hates you.
Yeah.
Because you're the guy in between them and the person they came to see,
How many different states have you performed in?
Let me think. I was thinking about this the other day. 1, 2, 3. I would guess about, I think about 30. I've performed in about 30 of the states.
I performed in 9 myself, And I found personally that out of all the states, Connecticut seemed the most cliquey to me. There's so many great comedians in Connecticut. And I can't name all the ones that I love because I've, but there's a little clique, and if you're not involved in that little clique, but I went to other states and they're like, Rich, when I go to Rhode Island or New Jersey, New York, it just seemed like they were more welcoming to me than when I went to, say, the local bar in Connecticut.
Well, Connecticut's sort of a weird spot because it's like I think part of it's sort of like it reminds me kind of Utah. Connecticut has sort of an inferiority complex in general because we're not New York, we're not Boston, and we're not Rhode Island. Rhode Island people have they've got their whole mentality going on. It reminds me of Texans.
Yeah.
Where it's like their state is the only state that matters and everybody else are idiots. That's how Rhode Islanders think. But Connecticut, we're just sort of we don't feel like we're, I don't know, it's a weird thing. And then that comedy scene, over the years it's been like, it's been kind of cliquish, which is not really all that helpful to anybody. It's sort of like this, it's a cutthroat situation for open mic spots. I mean, it's like, what's wrong with you people? And there's always drama going on here. It's really quite amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, two people, there's so many other ones I'm going to name, but two people, you and Artie Robb, were so good to me. Like, Rich, here's the stage. You had me do a benefit in Stafford Springs. Artie Robb always said, he goes, Rich, I love you. Whenever you're bombing, you just stick that claw in people's faces. Anytime I have a stage, you're going to be on it. He had me on probably at least 10 or 11 shows over 4 or 5 years. And I said, those are just two people besides David Sheehan, Marcelino Moose Hill. I mean, I can name a lot of the great comedians, but there is a little group that if you're not part of that, and it's funny because I used to hear them complain, how'd they get that show? And I said, who cares how they got it? They didn't get the last spot. Why don't you worry about what you're doing and you can get your own spot there. And then they would just get mad at me and walk away. But I have the same mentality as you. It's like, I don't worry about anybody but myself, and I would just do my own thing. And I've had people come up to me, do you have a manager? Do you have an agent? How do you get all these shows? I just talk to people. I network. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it really comes down to just being nice and showing up and be supportive. I mean, half the time, I show up to, I go to shows all the time that I'm not on just to support. I really have no ambition, no intention of getting on stage. I'm not there to, steal anyone's thunder. I'm just there to support.
Yeah.
And just showing that kind of support, people, and sometimes they put me on, but a lot of times they'll just, because I'm there, they're like, oh, you're here. You want to do next month? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. It's just being a nice person and show support for other comics. I mean, it's not hard to figure out.
Not rocket
just be
science.
A nice person and support other people. That's the secret. That's the secret. Be a nice person and support other people.
See, even as Leonard, even not as Leonard, you're still profound.
Yeah. Well, everybody tries to make it so hard, well, I think part of it is that idea that you kind of touched on before, where everybody thinks that, oh, I'm so brilliant that I'm so good they can't ignore me. And I'm like, actually, yes, we can. If you're a dick, we'll ignore you.
Yes.
You might get on stage and be really funny, but if we don't like you, we're still not going to book you.
Yep. As you know, I booked a lot of benefits. I did a lot of my own shows, and it happened to me several times where I just said, I'm never booking this comedian again. They had no appreciation. They didn't even bother promoting the show at all. They just wanted to do their 5, 10, 15 minutes and then walk off stage and just not even say thank you or even talk to anybody. So I just said, you know what? I forgive, but I don't forget. And so you're right. If you're gonna be a dick, I don't want anything to do with you. I want to do comedy because I want to have fun and I want to be around people that have the same mentality as me, and I want to go there without worrying about like this person's doing this person's doing that. And that's why I did do a lot of shows that weren't mine, but I love booking my own shows the best because I got to do it how I wanted it to be done. And I said, you were on a bunch of my shows, and I loved having you. Remember I used to have a whole thing where it's like, you get the crowd going, and then I hit it out of the ballpark. You had them laughing. I was like, all right, well, they're still laughing. I'll go on stage. It was a perfect combination.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Now, speaking of comedians that you worked with, very recently you worked with the hilarious J.P. Sears. What was that like?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. He was a very nice guy, very very kind. Yeah, I'm kind of going through right now with social media what he went through a few years, kind of what with what he's been doing. So he was very gracious and sat down with me and my wife Teresa and answered a lot of our questions about how to manage social media, how to get the most out of YouTube and Facebook and everything else. He was just really really kind, very funny, very genuine person. We're really really delighted to work with him.
It's funny because it wasn't until maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I never heard of him, and one of my friends sent me a couple of his videos. I said, "Who is this guy? He's hilarious," and it does remind me of your kind. I'm not saying it in that kind of way where like you're mimicking him. I'm just saying that like he has the same type of thing where he does these videos and they're hilarious, and I started following him after that. It was probably been about 2-3 years that I've been watching this guy, and he's hilarious. And so he went through the same thing you're going through right now.
Yeah, well, he started as a YouTuber. I mean, he just started making funny videos.
Yeah.
And he said, first little while nobody watched him, nobody cared, and then he had one that just caught people's attention, and everything just exploded from there. And then he's just consistently just built up his base, and then he started getting into doing stand up. And what I heard when he first started doing stand up, a lot of these guys from YouTubers, when they make the jump to doing stand up, they're not always that successful. But he was smart enough and learned. I think he really just paid a lot of attention to how other real stand ups worked. And he's really, his stand up is actually pretty strong for, especially for, coming from where he did. Because it's a weird relationship you have with the audience when you build them up on social media, because they feel like they're part of your family already. So it's sort of a different kind of thing. Whereas with stand up, you're kind of almost have an adversarial relationship with the audience, because it's like you always have to prove yourself to them.
Yeah.
But with social media, they get to know you and they become, instead of just being people that know who you are, now all of a sudden they become people who care about you and want you to succeed and feel like they're part of what you're doing. And in a real sense they are. I mean, it's really because of them that you're able to really go further. I mean, I wasn't making that many videos until people started paying attention. And it's like, oh, hey, look,
Yeah.
if I make a video, somebody's actually going to watch it. It gets you a little more excited about doing it. But yeah, I was just kind of dealing with that relationship with the audience is something that I just to sit down and talk to them is really, really helpful.
Now, your stand-up, different from the videos, do you have that planned out, or do you just go up on stage and start riffing?
Well, I have bits, but I don't really ever plan the order. I don't always close at the same thing. I like to leave a lot of room for play so I can improv and add new stuff to it without being too concerned. But now that I've actually taped some of my stuff for specials, I'm dropping a lot of material and going into newer stuff, doing more characters, doing more improv, more playing off the audience. Not really audience, not really crowd work, but more I just love the improv aspect to it. It's just figuring out as a stand-up how to incorporate improv into what you're doing without actually doing improv games. I don't want to be a one-man improv show. Hey everybody, somebody tell me what's your favorite color that's also a fruit. All right, what? I heard an orange. Oh, what? I didn't want to do that stuff.
Yeah.
but just kind of being in the moment, just being in the now. I think that's a big part of doing stand-up, is if the audience, especially now, if they feel like you're just up there reciting something that you memorized, the audience really kind of tunes out. You know, they want to have that very personal relationship, to so to speak. You know, they want to feel like you're here, you're there, you're making fun of what we're doing right now, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get into more and more.
Now, I mentioned in the intro that you've won several awards. One was Rhode Island Comedy Festival. The other one, tell me about the Clean Comedy Challenge. What year was that?
Well, there's a gal, Leslie Townsend. She has this thing. It's called the Clean Comedy Challenge. They have them. So they usually have about 4 or 5 of them throughout the year, at different places, different locations. And I did one. It was in Carson City, Nevada. And what it is it takes place over several days, where you actually have kind of like little workshops with other comics and kind of professionals, from people who are booking agents, people who've been writers for comedy shows, you know, for sitcoms, and people who are really accomplished stand-ups come in and kind of talk about the business of comedy. But it's geared towards doing clean comedy. So it's a lot of Christian based comedy, that kind of stuff. And it's part workshop and part competition. And yeah, I won the audience portion of the competition. And the other guy the guy that won the judges, you know, whatever. No, his name's Haywood Banks. He's a very accomplished comedian, very funny guy. It's just a really really cool thing. I said it's just clean comedy competition. I try to work. I work fairly clean.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of hurt me on the East Coast, because when I got out here, word got out that I was a really clean comic, and so a lot of people wouldn't book me because they thought, oh, clean comedy's not going to work on my room. And I'm like, trust me, I could go. Yeah, I could follow anything you want to throw in front of me. You can go as dirty as you want. I'm still going to get my laughs. I don't care.
I mentioned that earlier. I said you can do a room full of 5th graders or a room full of 25 to 60-year-olds and get belly laughs from both. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the key to being a clean comic is just don't tell them you're clean, and they won't notice.
I can't believe that would actually be a hindrance. It's kind of sad that people, oh, he's clean, I don't want him on my show. I don't know. I've seen you so many times in so many different shows, and I've never seen a time that you've bombed, and I'm being serious. You've always gotten, you know, laughs here and laughs there, and walked off stage. Then I see another time you did a completely different set, got the same amount of laughs. So yeah, I could believe it, but I mean, I think it's stupid if that's a hindrance to people that don't want to book you. I'm telling all my viewers right now, whoever's a comedian, book them right now.
Thanks.
Now,
yeah.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to talk about was you did the Clean Comedy Challenge, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think I saw a picture with you and Joe Piscopo there.
Yes, he was at the interesting. He's filming a TV show pilot called what was it called, Pit Boss or something like that. But it's about him running a casino. It's a sitcom about him being the CEO of this casino. And they were filming it at the casino that we were doing the shows at. And a lot of the people involved with the Clean Comedy Challenge were also actors in that series. And so he came backstage and he met us all. He was just as kind and as wonderful as you could imagine. He was just salt of the earth. He got pictures with everybody and just, you know, hung out, and he was just wonderful guy. Just absolutely adored that man.
Yeah. I never saw stand-up comedy, but I used to love him on Saturday Night Live with when he was doing his Frank Sinatra with Eddie Murphy doing Stevie Wonder. And
yeah,
He's just hilarious. I never saw his comedy, but in movies and Saturday Night Live, to me, that was like the last of the golden age for Saturday Night Live. I love, of course, the Belushi years, but that was the last, for me, the good year. Like Piscopo, Harry Shearer, Martin Short, all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I mentioned also in the intro, I want to talk about this. It's the Golden Spike Comedy Festival. What's that?
That's a comedy festival in Utah. Of course, the Golden Spike is, when the railroads met back in the day, they met in Utah, and they they drove in the Golden Spike. So anytime you hear Golden Spike, they're talking about Utah.
Okay.
But it's run by Wise Guys, the same gentleman who I helped start Wise Guys. He does it. He's kind of funny with it, because he'll do it one year and then go, I can't do it anymore. It was too much work. And then he doesn't do it for a few years, and then all of a sudden he decides to do it, and then he makes it bigger and even more ridiculous than it was before. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I mean, that's where I got to open for T.J. Miller and Tom Papa came and did his. It was like it's a big comedy festival that includes stand-up and improv and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun.
Now, you mentioned you like the comedy of the past, which you and I are in agreement on that. Do you have any comedians that are currently becoming on their way up that you find funny?
No, it's just me.
I like your honesty.
Oh no, there's a lot of really fun. Like AJ Haypenny, I think is.
Oh yeah.
He's the thing I'm enjoying about this, basically this time out from stand up, is watching how other comics are trying to stay relevant, trying to stay up on top of their craft. So I admire the ones who are really just keep plugging away at it. So AJ's one. I know back in Utah, there's several. There's Bryce Prescott, another guy, JD Fagan, he almost quit doing stand up, and then when he decided to stop, he did a show where he just thought, this is it. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to have fun. This is the last time I'm ever going to do it. And he goes up there, and it sort of became a watershed moment, because it was one of his best sets ever. And he's telling me afterwards, he goes, I finally had that moment you said I needed to have, where I just stopped caring. I said, yes, that's the secret. When you stop caring about whether the audience likes you or not, when you stop caring about whether it's going well, and you just get up there and have fun, it all breaks open. And so it was fun to see that. And then there's so many. Pat Oates is really, I'm looking for him to really break out here soon. He's really hitting a stride right now. I got to work with him last week, and he really is starting to throw. I mean, he's always been funny. When I first saw him, I thought he was funny and had a lot of potential. But lately, he's really he's gotten into that, kind of bitter, kind of half given up, but still plugging away at it. So he still has hope that something's going to happen, and sort of that combination of desperation, hope, and at the same time sort of given up has kind of culminated in what I think is just brilliant comedy. And I think he's going to break open here pretty soon.
Good, I hope so. For me, I think one of my favorite comedians, I feel bad for him because I think he was just about to be a breakout star, was Martin Norman out of New York. I performed with him several times. And,
oh, yeah.
But what happened with him was that his idol, if you know who I'm talking about, is Jerry Seinfeld. Right before the pandemic, Jerry Seinfeld had him open up for him. He just came out with a special that was on YouTube, and then bam, the pandemic hit. So he's doing exactly what you said. AJ, who I know AJ, I've worked with him several times. He's trying to stay relevant. He's doing all these YouTube videos of him doing comedy in the park at Central Park with homeless people. He's hilarious, and I feel bad because I think if the pandemic never happened, he was on his way for breakout stardom, because he was so close to being there.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that every comic knows who he is,
Yeah.
but the rest of the world doesn't. He's kind of in that same place that Mitch Hedberg was.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in comedy knew Mitch Hedberg, and then when he dies, just at the point where he was about to become huge, and which is what happened after he died, the general populace actually found him, and then he became huge, you know, posthumously. And yeah, Mark Norman is kind of like that, but instead of Mark dying, the comedy industry died.
Yeah.
So, so the reverse problem for Mark. Yeah, he's probably one of the best well-written comics out there right now.
Yeah.
And very unique and very original. I mean, he really is different than anybody else. A lot of people are trying to copy what he does, but I totally agree. He's brilliant.
I'm so happy I had a chance to perform with him in New York one time. It was great. I loved working with him.
Awesome.
Now we're in the middle of the pandemic still. I don't know when this is going to end. And you mentioned comedy is your sole job. Is that correct?
Yep. Well, basically, my life right now, my sole income is selling T-shirts and wishing people happy birthday on Cameo.
All right, well, let's talk about that. I was going to wait until the end of the show to plug your stuff, but let's talk about the Cameo. Where can people... All right, you're just about to make it big, and now you die on my show.
Yeah.
This will be my biggest rated. This will be my highest rated show. Rodney Norman dies on the Claw's Corner.
Hey, yeah, if it helps sell T-shirts so my wife can have some money, that'd be awesome.
All right, so you on Cameo you do video messages.
Yeah, I do them as Leonard or Santa Claus or the overly dramatic man. Or I also have a professor, a philosophy professor, who's basically lost his mind. I'll be doing more with him here soon. But I'm going to be doing a YouTube channel where I just teach people philosophy. But it has this character, this philosophy professor, who's basically losing his mind and isn't all there.
Have you tried that character out yet?
Yeah, I played around with him a little bit here and there, and then I'm also doing working on an atheist preacher, sort of a nihilistic, nothing really matters preacher. Then another one, it's a redneck Rodney. He's trying to get right with Jesus, but he's also trying to sell cars. And so he's got a used car sell a lot, but he's so honest with people that he just can't make any money selling cars because he's too honest about, half the people that come to buy a car from him, he sends them somewhere else because he likes them too much to sell them one of his cars. So he's really, I'm just having a lot of fun.
I can see that.
Just coming up with characters.
And so, right, so you mentioned Cameo. People can go to Cameo and buy that. And also, as the YouTube, do you have a YouTube channel now?
Yeah. If you just look up Rodney Norman comedian,
okay,
my YouTube channel is one of the first things that pops up. Nothing against all the other Rodney Normans, but I'm currently the #1 trending Rodney Norman in the world. I'm winning. I'm the most famous Rodney Norman of all time at this time.
That's why you're the first Rodney Norman I asked to be on my show.
Absolutely. Trying to get a Wikipedia page. I think if I get a Wikipedia page, I will forever solidify myself as the greatest Rodney Norman of all time. I figure if I can't be the greatest person of all time, but I can be the greatest Rodney Norman of all time.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if we can get a plaque that says Rodney Norman performed comedy here.
There you go.
We'll do it at Joker's Wild since it's no longer there. Just, the former home of Rodney Norman, world famous.
I almost bought that place.
Really? Was this?
Yeah.
Because I know it went through several. Speaking of Pat Oates, I know he managed it for a while. Then after that, they got somebody else, and then it just went under. 2 guys from New York. Was it around that time?
Yeah, there was like a bunch of guys that wanted to turn it into a martini bar or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was before they came in. I was going to buy it, and then the guy who was selling it to me, um, well, he called me. He said, "We just want you to just basically just take it over." I mean, it wasn't going to cost me. I wasn't going to have to put any money out to them. I basically would assume the debt, assume the lease. I'd be paying him for the lease, and then just kind of take over the business. But every time I asked to see what the debt was, they would never show it to me. And then all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, we're going to put the alcohol license in your name." And I'm like, "Oh, hell no. I'm not assuming liability of an alcohol license before I've even seen the books." And then at that point I was like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm out of here.
I
This
know.
doesn't sound like the deal that you were presenting." So, but no, I would have loved to taken over that club because it's a great spot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little small, but still, every show I ever did there was so much fun. That was a fun little club.
Yeah, I love that club. That was the first place I went to, and the second place was Funny Bone in Manchester. I love those two clubs.
Ah, yeah.
Had a lot of good times there. Now, as I mentioned, we're in the middle of the pandemic. Do you do any Zoom comedy?
Yeah, it's been kind of funny. Businesses have been hiring me to come in and do their Zoom meetings in the mornings. They have me. Sometimes I pretend I'm like the new sales manager, and then I come in and just start, as Leonard, start giving them just complete nonsense. Um, so
That's funny.
that's a lot of fun. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff. One thing I've learned is that you have to treat Zoom shows different from doing stand up because stand up you're performing for an audience,
Yeah.
but with Zoom you really have to kind of bring it to where you're performing for one person, and so it's sort of a different kind of relationship that you have, with the audience, because it really is. It's just one on one, and when you make that transition in your mind, it becomes a lot easier to do.
Similar to when I was in radio. What they taught me was they said when you're on the microphone, act like you're speaking to a family member on the phone. So you're speaking directly. That person on the other end thinks you're talking directly to them, and so it sounds more casual. It doesn't sound stilted, doesn't sound
Yeah,
rehearsed. You're just like, "Hi, this is Rich on 1240 WWCO," and you just go into whatever you're talking about because you act like you're talking to a friend. And it sounds like it's very similar with Zoom. Instead of trying to do, because I can't imagine doing a stand-up act, because like you said, you need that audience reaction, and you feed off that reaction. And if you're not
yeah,
getting anything, you don't really know, are people laughing, are people enjoying this, and you're just doing your jokes, and it's not the same.
yeah. You just have to assume that you're doing well.
Yeah. This is my best show ever. I killed. Now, you mentioned that I mentioned in the intro as well that you're an actor. And I mentioned several of the movies that you played in. One was The Antagonist, the other one was the IP section, and then the Bob Show. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, the IP section is it's an internet series. A friend of mine in Utah, he's a patent attorney, and he decided to go into stand-up comedy. And so, based on his experience of becoming a stand-up comedian, he made a web series. And so it's the IP section. IP stands for intellectual property. Um, and so it's kind of his behind the scenes of him becoming a stand-up and some of the struggles that he went through of whether or not to use his real name, because if clients would find out that he was doing comedy, and uh, and then and it's just a really funny series, especially the weird people that he meets that come to him to get patents done, weird inventions and stuff. It's a really funny series. I encourage everybody out there, go check it out. The Bob Show is a sketch comedy show, with a guy, Bob McCarthy. He's up in Lowell, Massachusetts. It's a public access show, and it's just complete lunacy, crazy skits. Half the time he'd get actors who were just people on the street, and he would just invite them to come and be in the skit. So it was just kind of guerrilla style sketch comedy. So a lot of fun. Had a lot of good times at that. The antagonist was I see you wanted my IMDb page. Is that where you
Yeah,
got
Is
this
that,
stuff from?
are these older videos?
Well,
Older?
the antagonist is it was a student film by a student at the University of Utah, and it was a horror movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was about this guy he would have these he would have these weird visions of him killing somebody in these weird scenarios, and then but you're never quite sure if he actually killed them or not. Kind of weird. But, it was interesting. But I was also in Independence Day and I Know What You Did Last Summer. But they were just
serious?
sort of yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was I was supposed to have a speaking role in both of them, but ended up just being in the background. It's like it's one of those deals where they say, okay, you're going to say this, and then you get there and they go, okay, well, we can't have you say that because then we have to fly you to California. But I was supposed to be if you watch Independence Day, the first human being killed by an alien, it's at Area 51. He's one of the guards. That was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be that guy who got killed. But because they filmed the first part where we're coming into the hangar, that was filmed in Utah, and I'm the guy right at the head of the gurney pushing the alien in. If you look at Will Smith's armpit, look over to the side to see my face.
Okay.
Push the gurney.
How did you get these parts? Did you just find out they were filming in Utah and went down there and said, "I'd like to be in a movie"?
I was with an agency in Utah, and they called. They said, "Hey, we need people that are willing to drive out there and hang out for 2 days." So that's what we did.
I had a friend that was an extra in the movie Quiz Show. He said they filmed his scene for 12 hours. He was, I guess, Robert Redford, I think he directed, whoever was the star of that movie, walking past them, and that was the scene. They completely cut the scene out. So you got $50 for the day, but this was back in whenever Quiz Show came out. So he would do a lot of that, a lot of standby work, just go down there and say, oh, I'd like to be an extra in the movie, and they would put him in there. But so you actually did you ever have a speaking role in them? I mean, not the movies we talked about, but in a major movie like Independence Day, did you ever have a speaking role?
No. Like I said, I've come close to almost doing it a couple times, and then just either the part got cut, and so I ended up just being a background player.
Did you ever have a love for acting, or was that just something to do to pass the time?
Oh yeah, that was really my passion, was to be an actor. That's what my primary focus at first was. When I got all through high school, I was in improv and theater and all that stuff. And after I got out of the Marine Corps, that's when I did Independence Day. Was just after I got out of the Corps, and I had done a lot of community theater stuff. But when I finally did stand up, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is because you can do everything. You can bring everything into stand up.
Yeah,
you can do whatever you want. There's no.
Yeah, you're the star of your own movie right now.
You just here's this guy, and as long as you keep making people laugh, they keep booking you. So
you've done a lot, Rodney. It's impressive. And you also, I'm trying to remember when it was, maybe about a year ago, I heard you doing a podcast as well. You still do one?
I am relaunching it actually this week. Yeah, I had been doing it. Like I said, I was doing a podcast about philosophy. At least that's what I intended. And then I would invite other comedians on, and then we ended up just talking about other comedians.
Yeah, well, the one I heard was with Vinny Beadle.
Oh, no. Vinny.
Okay. But that was the one episode I heard.
He's writing a book. Have you heard that? He's got a book coming out. He just sent me a message yesterday. He says, hey, I'm writing a book, and I mentioned you in it. is that okay? And I'm like, well, I don't know. What do you say about me? So he's supposed to be sending me a copy of it. So
I
I can
gotta
get
say,
a.
Vinny has always been good to me. He's another one to put me on his shows. We always get along, but for some reason he rubs a lot of people the wrong way, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but I always got along with him. But yeah, I heard.
I did too. I think, when I first met him, I'm like, this dude is a flim flam man in his heart, and I just knew it from the beginning. He did. I enjoy his hustle. I think he means well. I think he wants to be successful, and he wants to help everybody he can. But he gets a little in over his head sometimes. He over promises and under delivers, and he's too big for his own britches is what happens most of the time. But I do think one day he's going to hit it big and he's going to do well, and I think he'll do right by everybody. He's got a good heart, but you know he was raised by a used car salesman. So what can you say?
No, you said it all right there. And the big thing is you said it perfectly. Rich, come down here. You're going to get $25. You get to do half hour. I get down there. It's 5 minutes. I don't get paid for anything. So that's what a lot of the shows were with me and other comedians who
Yeah.
walk.
Well, I got to the point. I got to the point with him that I always took cash with me whenever I did a show to make sure the other comics got paid.
I wish I was on a show with his shows with you.
Yeah, I wish I'd done that.
That's funny. Anyway, so the podcast is coming out on what? It's going to be on Spotify, iTunes, all the social media platforms.
Yeah, I'm gonna push it everywhere. I'm gonna be doing a Patreon channel, but me and the wife are going to. We're embarking tomorrow. We're basically just doing our tiny tour. We're going to go out and meet fans, do a podcast with them, get to know my fans. A few people are going to set up shows in their backyard, and I've got a little PA system with me, so I can do a show anywhere. And so it's going to be a combination of podcast, travel journal, live shows, and then just doing my my standard videos. I'm thinking about doing actually a motivational speech by Leonard, a full 1 hour, and basically do it as a pay-per-view kind of thing.
I love it.
But it's going to be a seminar on how to live life by Leonard, and it's going to go into psychology and how your brain works and all kinds of stuff. But
you know
so
what? Let me know when. I'll be
on.
signing them up. I'll be putting down my $20 or however much it costs to watch that. That sounds great.
Absolutely, it'll be fun. Yeah, I figure I'm tired of waiting for other people to put me in stuff, so I'm just doing my own thing. And I figure nobody knows how to use me anyway, so I'm like, screw it. I'll just do my own stuff.
Yeah. Well, how did you get the JP Sears? Did somebody see your act and said you two would be great together?
No, he was at Wise Guys in Salt Lake, and I said I'm very good friends with the owner, and he excuse me. He said he needs someone to open for him, and I'm like, I'll do it. I'll be in town, so just sort of worked out that way. That's the nice thing about Wise Guys is I've been able to get to work with pretty much everybody. I mean, JP, Norm Macdonald, Rob Schneider. I mean, you name it, David Tell, Bill Burr.
The question, we'll stop right there because two of my favorite comedians are David Tell and Bill Burr. That must have been great. I love their style.
Awesome.
They're great. I've talked to both of them, off stage, and they're great guys, but they are hilarious. And talk about being real. They just get up on stage, and I'm sure you saw the Bill Burr Saturday Night Live fiasco, which I don't even think it was a fiasco. He just did his bit, and then of course people freak out because they're so politically correct. But
yeah,
well,
he's one of those guys who the more controversy he creates, the better.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, But yeah, I think Bill Burr and David Tell, I think, are the two best comedians going right now, and then Chappelle.
Yes.
And then probably Brian Regan.
funny because like Brian Regan's another clean comedian. That's probably my father's favorite. I mean, he grew up. He's the one that got me hooked on. My favorite comedian of all time is George Carlin. I grew up listening to the records with the Hippy Dippy Weatherman, and as my father would take my brothers and I to see him in Connecticut, the Oakdale. And as we grew up, I started seeing him on my own. I saw him every year until 2008, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to waste my money because it's on HBO. I'll see him next year, and then he died. That was the only tour I could see from like 81, 82, all the way to 2008. That was the only tour I missed live. I'm so mad. But yeah, but anyway, the reason I brought that up, because my father loves George Carlin, loves Bill Burr, but one of his favorite comedians, and we talked about, clean comedy. Brian Regan's one of his favorites, and I think he's hilarious too. And he's another one, probably people don't know where to put him or where to, I mean, he's just like Jim Gaffigan's another one.
Yeah, just clean corporate. I mean, he really makes his money on corporate gigs.
Oh, he does?
He gets, 100,000 for just to show up and do 15 minutes. Yeah, he's doing well. He doesn't have a hard time paying his bills.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because he's probably one of the, like I said, probably one of the biggest, probably one of the best, one of the wealthiest comedians out there, and hardly anybody even knows who he is. I mean, he could walk into any store right now, and maybe some one or two people would know who he is, but it's kind of comedy's in a weird place right now. It's kind of funny.
Not talking about the pandemic now, but even before the pandemic, do you think social media is hurting comedy? Because say a comedian's going in there, they go into an open mic trying to hone their skill, trying to work out new jokes, and you have somebody going on there with their camera saying, oh yeah, look at this, man, this joke sucks, he's not even funny anymore. And they can, or even that, or people come out with a brand new DVD, CD, or streaming special on Netflix, and like, I saw that joke, somebody has it on their YouTube channel. Do you think that that's hurting comedy, or do you think it's also good in a way for some of the up-and-comers who might say, oh, wow, who is this guy? He's hilarious. I want to check him out next time he's in town.
Well, I think I don't think it's hurt, but I think it's just changed it.
Yeah.
You have more avenues to reach audiences. But at the same time, you also have more ways to destroy yourself. Like you were saying, that, like, what was it, Kramer.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
He was
Michael
trying
Richards.
to do stand-up. Michael Richards was trying to do stand-up. And just one night, just off the cuff, he got mad at somebody, lost his cool, destroyed his career. And it was all because of social media. If somebody wasn't recording that, nothing probably would have ever come of it.
Are you a fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I've never watched it. I don't have anything against it. I just don't have HBO.
Okay, now the reason I ask is because Curb Your Enthusiasm is a show by the creator of Seinfeld, Larry David, and he did a whole thing on the Michael Richards episode. It was hilarious. He was the way, because Floyd Whitehead's brother, Leon,
JB Smoove.
JB Smoove. He's a regular on the show, and then he was there and the whole season was he wanted to do a Seinfeld reunion so he can get his wife back. There was a whole thing to it, but then JB Smoove gets Michael Richards mad, and Michael Richards starts screaming, yelling, and everybody's filming him. He's like, no, not again, not again. It's hilarious. So they were actually making fun of that. And I know it's a shame that one moment, because he's not really, as people explain, he's not a real stand-up comedian. He doesn't know how to come back with insults, and he just said the first thing that came out of his mouth. I really don't believe that he meant to do it like that. He just got so mad and so flustered. That's the first thing that came out, and that ruined his whole career.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a racist. I mean, he's not, but he just lost his cool. He said the unpardonable in public to a black person. That was the whole. But yeah, so those kind of moments, and then just kind of the cancel culture with things. I mean, I'm kind of experiencing it to some degree now, is that people are finding me and they're going back and looking for every podcast I've ever been on. They're going back to all my posts back to 2007, you know, I mean, I'll be sitting and something will pop up on my phone and say, so and so likes your photograph, and I'll pull it up, and it's a picture of me and Pat Oates back in 2007. It's like, what is going on with this world? You know, so there's always, people are always looking for everything.
Well, I could say I went back on your Facebook to see what I could find, and here's all I found: Dad's instructional videos. As your
Oh,
it brings back the memories, huh?
yeah,
The one I saw was where you're teaching people how to use a vacuum cleaner. I thought it was hilarious.
yeah, it was. Well, my kids at that point in time, the only way I could communicate with them is through Facebook or YouTube. And so I was tired of repeating myself, so I just started making instructional videos for my kids. And it was funny because after I had done I'd done those few, some guy in Australia all of a sudden became famous for doing the very same thing. And it was like 6 months after I had been doing them,
Uh,
he started doing them. But he got on, you know, international TV and became huge with it. And it was like, well, he beat, you know, I might have done it first, but he became famous first, so he wins. That's the
of
other
course,
weird thing about all this is, one, you have no idea what's going to hit with people. I mean, it's such a crapshoot.
yeah. Well, in anything, it's right place, right time. If the Beatles came out with "Love, Love Me Do" right now, they would bomb. Nobody even know who they are. But '66, bam! That was something that we needed to change. They were the perfect band for that time.
Yep.
And another example, and not even with comedy, not even with music, but the guy who invented the pet rock. Who would have
Oh,
thought
absolutely.
this rock would be the biggest sensation of the '80s? So you never know what's going to hit, like you said. Just have to be at the right. And what I like about you is you're very persistent. You just keep moving on and on, trying new things. You're never stagnant. And I've noticed, I've been noticing you since I met you. I got into comedy in 2012, so I've known you since 2012.
Yeah.
And every time I see you, you're always trying something new, always something different, new characters. And I think that's why you're always going to be working. And hopefully one of these days it's just going to be, I mean, it's already starting, the breakout character Leonard.
Yeah, it's that's the key. Just keep plugging away. You never know when it's going to happen. Just keep doing it. Have fun. Don't lose sight of that. Enjoy it for what it is. There's highs, there's lows, and you just enjoy it. Have fun. Learn what you can. Keep plugging on.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you sell merchandise. What do you sell?
Oh, we've got, this is the weird. Okay, so we've got t-shirts, sweatshirts, all that through Teespring. If you go to Teespring and just look for Rodney Norman stuff.
Okay.
Or if you go to my YouTube channel, you can, in my videos, it links to the store there. But
Okay.
and then Cameo. If you're familiar with Cameo, you can hire me to say anything you want.
How
That's
much
the
do you charge?
weirdest thing.
How much do you charge
It's
for
30.
Cameo?
It's 30 bucks.
Good. Yep.
It's what they recommended. It's what they told me. That's where I'm at.
All right.
They actually wanted me to go higher, but I was like, I think I'm only. I'll go with 30. But
Yeah.
it's the weirdest thing because I'll wake up and like four people like, hey, wish my friend happy birthday. I'm like, okay, hey everybody, happy birthday, and they pay me 30 bucks for it. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love it. You know.
What's next, and where can people find you? I know you mentioned several areas where in YouTube you're going to have come out with a podcast. You have a website. What are some of the other areas where people can find you if they want to? Say if somebody wants to book you for comedy, where can they find you?
Probably the easiest way to get hold of me is through Facebook, through Messenger, or you can go Rodney D Norman at Gmail is my email. But yeah, I've got some, like I said, my stand-up comedy as Santa Claus should be released hopefully this week, and my
Wait.
dry bar comedy special will be hopefully soon thereafter. So I've got those, and then like I said, my next big thing online. I'll be doing some live stuff, but yeah, I'm working on I'm calling it a motivational seminar, but it's basically Leonard doing stand-up for an hour.
Oh, so he's not even going to be a philosopher. He's going to be doing stand-up.
Well, we're going to be giving a motivational speech.
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rodney, it was great talking to you. But before you leave, I want Leonard to tell my audience the best way to have a good life, to find a good job, to find the person they love, and just like what's the best way of going about doing all that and being happy in life.
Let me get Leonard here. Hold on a second. Well, hello and welcome to the answer to this question. People are always asking me all the time, "Hey, how can I find fulfillment in a life without fulfillment?" The secret to everything is just stop wanting stuff. Stop wanting to achieve stuff, because it's your desire to want stuff and achieve things that keeps making you do stupid things and not doing the right things, because you're always stressed out and stuff. So if you just sort of just go, I don't want anything, and I'm just going to do whatever makes me happy. And then when you just start doing stuff that makes you happy, other people go, "Hey, why is that guy so happy?" And then they start following you, and then all of a sudden you start getting stuff because people think you're pretty cool, and they start giving you stuff, and you're going, I wasn't even expecting any of this stuff. And then all of a sudden you have stuff because you didn't want the stuff. So the less you want the stuff, then you have more stuff, and then because you got more stuff, well, then you're pretty happy that you got the stuff because you didn't have the stuff before. And okay, so what I'm trying to say is if you just lower your standards a little bit and stop wanting stuff, then when the stuff that you do get, you'll actually just really appreciate it more, and then you feel like you're accomplishing something. And that really is the secret.
I feel better already.
Awesome.
In the middle of that, I just gave up on all my expectations, all my hopes, all my dreams, all my aspirations. I feel great. So thank you very much, Rodney. Or should I say Leonard? Leonard, you showed me the true way of life, and I appreciate that. I'm a better person because of you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste. All right, Rodney, Leonard, some of the other characters who I don't know your names. It was great talking to all of you, and I look forward to many more fun things coming soon in the future.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. It's always a pleasure. Good to catch back up with you, my friend.
Most definitely. That wraps up another edition of the Claus Corner. I would like to thank my guest, philosopher, comedian, actor, motivational speaker, and all-around nice guy, Mr. Rodney Norman, a.k.a. Leonard. I would also like to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.